What is a cooking tip you wish you had learned much younger? Serious. Adding salt and pepper to food during the cooking process adds much deeper flavor than adding it afterwards on your dish. If you're learning to cook meat, get a good digital thermometer. You'll be able to check for that just done temperature. It feels like cheating. If your cooking tastes like it's missing something no matter how well you have pepper and salted it, chances are that you are missing acidity. Try to give it a little vinegar, tomatoes, etc. and see how it tastes. A not sharp or dull knife is just a knife-shaped piece of metal that's more likely to cut you than to cut food. Salt steak like you are salting your driveway. Most foods are ruined by too much salt. Steak is different. When it comes to seasoning your meat, before you cook it, more is more. Use a generous amount of coarse kosher salt, more than you think you need. Also, let the meat rest, at least 5 minutes, before cutting into it. Take your time when sautéing onions, it will make the end product much tastier. Deglazing. It cleans the pan and adds delicious flavor to the dish. The stuff that sticks to the pan, you don't want to throw that out. When you're done sautéing whatever it is you're cooking, just add a few teaspoons of wine, vinegar, beer, or even water to the pan and pour it over your food. Get a good sharp knife and a wok. A few I can think of. Charring your veggies, especially broccoli and asparagus, can easily become the highlight of any meal you cook. Put a wet towel underneath your cutting board to prevent it from sliding around. When preparing meals, take a few minutes and think about the order of how you should cook things. A minute of thought could save you 15 as you wait for our potatoes to finish boiling while your chicken and veggies get cold. For certain cookie recipes, let the dough sit at room temperature/chill for 30 minutes to let the flour hydrate. It helps create that crispy edge but soft center cookie. Meal prepping actually helps a lot, especially if you are trying to eat healthier. Season every part of the meal. When you make spaghetti sauce, season the meat as you brown it. Season the sauce while it's cooking. Season the pasta water. Season it all. Salt shouldn't make your food taste salty. It should enhance the flavors already occurring in the food. If it tastes bland, add more salt. If you can taste the salt, you've gone too far. A falling knife has no handle. Lots of people know this. What you need to remember is that this also applies to the blades from food processors and blenders, mandolins, scissors, vegetable peelers, and any other kitchen tool with a sharp edge. Taste your food as often as possible while cooking. Ideally, you should probably taste after each step of the recipe, or if you're not following a recipe, taste every time you've incorporated new ingredients. Always make a lot of rice, you can use it the next day for so much recipes. Mise en place, have everything ready before you start the actual cooking process. While this is important for all cooking, it is absolutely essential for cooking in a wok. Highest heat possible for cooking with a wok. Cooking is not just making everything by recipe. You can experiment with different things and add almost everything. Oh, and also if you make anything with tomatoes, then add a little bit of sugar. It really makes a difference. Things won't go to hell in a handbasket if you don't follow the recipe exactly, exceptions being baking things like bread. I've realized I'm very good at cooking things out of a cookbook, but improvising is a total mystery to me. Add beer, like a whole bottle of it, to your chili when you're putting it together. Dark ales like Guinness are a great choice. Vodka in a crust of some type will make it flaky and delightful. Besides all the add salt comments, watch Good Eats. It not only teaches food and history and cooking, but it tells you why things are made this way. Cooking is art. Sure, there are techniques to get a certain product, but most importantly you learn what those techniques do and which one makes the most sense. Good Eats is a great program for that. It's the Bill Nye of food shows. Bon appetites, it's alive. Binging with Babish and Good Eats are essential for getting a feel for how to cook before you even step foot in a kitchen. Also, bonus round. Every time you cook it will be a little different, so smelling and listening to your food is very important. After you cook for a while you'll start to pick up on what it's telling you. I can tell just by listening to food how it's cooking. Don't trust the indicators on the stove top either for what medium heat is. Different pans and size burners and different foods have different mediums. Listen to that food. Is it sizzling? Is it crackling? Is it a dull hiss? All these things mean different things. Work with the food, and trust your gut. Also, the microwave is great for vegetables. And toasters are bullshit chaos, and you really gotta test each one to figure out its temper. Different breads cook differently and no two toasters toast the same. Also, every food from every restaurant has a YouTube video on how to make it, and you'll never want to pay $20 for Alfredo again. It's insane how easy it is to make. Never enough garlic. I like eating eggs and ramen noodles. I used to use up a frying pan to fry my eggs separately, but if you wait until the last 2 minutes of your ramen boiling, you can just crack the eggs right into the pot. After 2 minutes the eggs are cooked perfect with a slightly runny yolk and saves you cleaning a frying pan afterwards. I wish I'd known that one of the most surefire ways to peel a hard-boiled egg without ripping it to pieces is to make sure you are using old eggs. Old meaning you didn't buy them just yesterday. I usually try to wait 3 or 4 days after buying the eggs to hard-boil them. I've heard steaming the eggs rather than hard-boiling them in water is supposed to help as well, but I haven't tested that very much. My Chinese friend told me the trick to Asian cooking. You have to balance the 5 tastes. Salty, sweet, sour, savory, spicy. Mix the right proportions of those 5, and you have something that tastes really good. Want a simple yet delicious sauce for your stir-fry? Salty equals soy sauce. Sweet equals brown sugar. Sour equals lemon juice. Savory equals chicken broth. Spicy equals hot sauce. Mix all 5 things. Try to taste what's lacking and add more of that until it tastes good. If you're boiling potatoes, salt the water. If you don't, they will be bland no matter how much salt you add after the fact. Stop cooking eggs before they're done. They will continue to cook after you take them off the heat. Don't cook everything on high. It's tough to add too much garlic. Learn to clean while you cook. Once you get in the habit, the kitchen can be cleaner after you make dinner than it was before. If something is already beautiful, do not try to make it more beautiful. What happens is that you 99.9% of the time manage to ruin the beauty. When baking, weigh ingredients instead of using measuring cups. It lets you be more consistent and precise with your measurements. Using measuring cups, you can end up with too much or too little of an ingredient depending on how tightly you pack it into the measuring cup, like if you use the cup to scoop flour from the bag versus spooning it into the cup. This can make a big difference in the texture of your baked goods. It also means that you don't have to wash a bunch of different measuring cups. You can just put each ingredient straight into the bowl, use a digital scale and tare/0 it after each ingredient you add. To salt or brine most all meats. And that of almost every marinade, only the salt is making it below the surface. Marinades is for crusts, salt is for moisture retention. Soup is crazy easy. Throw in a can of chicken broth, 2 or 3 of your favorite veggies, fresh or canned, and some diced up meat, anything from hamburger, sausage, leftover steak, chicken breast, pick your fave, and heat it up for 10 to 20 minutes, more is okay. Better than any soup from a can, and way cheaper. A little salt and pepper. Chop some celery if you want to get fancy. Throw in some pasta if you want. Any kind of noodles, even some broken up ramen if you want. I like a bit of onions and garlic, but that's all later down the road when you want to explore the soup universe. Also, faster than almost any other home-cooked healthy meal. Cheap, healthy, what more could you want? How to dice an onion properly. Absolutely hated doing it until I learned this trick. https://youtube.b/dcgs067s0zo. Prep all your ingredients before you start cooking. That way, all you have to do is focus on the timing of everything. Much easier. Sautéed onions add flavor to everything. They take 10 minutes and make your kitchen smell like you are cooking something delicious. Putting cream cheese in eggs, I just learned this last month, and now I always use it. Cauliflower steaks are actually pretty darn tasty when done right, and I've always been a serious meat eater. There's loads of recipes and methods out there, but it's perhaps worth a shot. Food keeps cooking after you take it off heat. If you wait until it hits the point you want to serve it, you've likely gone too far. Don't try cooking something new or modifying a dish when you have company coming over. Garlic, celery, and onion. Add this to any soup and it will taste a lot better. Add salt to the water, if you are making soups or cooking meat, and taste it before throwing the other ingredients to the pot. Following recipes is fine, but only you know exactly how salty do you like your food. If you used too much salt in a recipe and you don't want to throw it away, just add potatoes and they will absorb the salt, although they will also add a lot of volume, so be prepared to eat the same for at least another day or 2. You don't need to the stove on high for everything. Using different kitchen utensils for jobs they aren't made for. For example, scissors to cut chicken, potato peeler to slice cheese, a wooden roller to stop water from boiling over the pan. Not everything that tastes good when you mix it all together. Not everything that seems like it doesn't taste good together, tastes really good together. Be open-minded and try stuff. Not necessarily a tip, but something I wish I had known long ago. I just finished culinary school and have been working in restaurants for 5 years. I had no cooking experience or knowledge as a kid because my father had neither as well. What I wish I knew sooner: everything is less complicated/sophisticated than I ever imagined. Every time I make something I've never made before, I wonder why the hell I haven't been doing it myself for so long. I rarely eat out now because I know how to make a wide variety of items and continue to expand my culinary library. My whole culinary school experience was moments of, wow, I can't believe this item is that simple. Granted, it didn't mean I made things perfectly. I know how to make pretzels and bagels, but I still have to practice the shape. But the taste and texture is spot on. Real easy way to cook a steak. Get oven hot to lowest temp. Salt and pepper steak as soon as you've turned the oven on so it has some time to sit. Cook steak in oven until it reaches 90°F on a meat thermometer. Get a skillet nice and hot with a bit of olive oil. Drop steak onto skillet, turning it over when the bottom gets that lovely brown color going. If you have visible fat, make sure to tilt the skillet and get that fat on the metal. You want the fat to go translucent. Take steak off at 125°F. Let rest 10 minutes. It will finish cooking to a perfect med-rare, be very juicy and tasty. Placing a wooden spoon over a boiling pot will stop it from boiling over. Always brown your meat. That is where most of the flavor comes from. Season with authority. I heard that on Chopped and say it to myself whenever I'm cooking. My fiancé is a great cook and he says I don't season enough. Eat your mistakes. It's pretty easy to see when you fuck something up, but actually eating food you prepared wrong helps you figure out where you went wrong. Example, seeing that your veggies are burnt tells you that you burned it. But eating a couple bites tells you how you burned it. Did you keep the veggies too long on one side and only burn part of it? Was your pan temperature too high and you burned the outside while the inside stayed cold? Did you not use enough oil and technically the food looks and tastes alright and the outside is just a little crispy from a lack of oil? These are all things you can only find out by eating your mistakes. Also, when I say eat your mistakes, I don't mean eat the full thing. Don't force yourself to eat an entire terrible meal, unless you're broke and have to. Eat a couple bites to get a sense of what went wrong, then pitch the rest. Ice cream scooper for cookie dough portioning. Learn how to deglaze browned pan with red wine or white wine. I haven't cooked much Western food until just a few years back. Now I'm making beef burgundy like a pro. Just start and try as many different things as possible. If your brown sugar is too hard, put it in the microwave with a cup of water. The water evaporates, the brown sugar is now nice and soft. Use microwave safe stuff obviously. Knowing what happens to your food in the immediate minutes after you're done cooking. So many foods alter just by the nature of time/heat/etc. from the time you turn the burner off to the time it hits the table. Some immediate examples. Meat continually cooking after you take it off the grill. The key to getting a steak right is knowing how much time is going to pass between when you take it off the grill and when the person you serve is going to cut into it. Eggs and flour-based sauce will thicken as it sits. You may notice this in a rudimentary sense when you're cooking something like pastaroni and it says it thickens on its own. Eggs are a food, like the meat, that continue to cook just by being hot. Which means if you take your eggs off just a second early, they will still continue to cook until you actually eat them. Salad. Obvious example, but putting your dressing on early and letting it sit for a while is a great way for it to get soggy. I'm sure you all can think of dozens more. But most recipes don't include what happens to the food immediately after you finish cooking, only the steps you take to literally cook it.